I am fascinated by directors who move between live action and animation from project to project. What was it about this movie that needed to be told in animation? Well, it didn't need to be told in animation. It could be told in live action. The studio who previously owned the movie tried to make me do it in live action, and it could work, with aliens and flying cars and all that stuff, but I didn't see it that way. I needed to see it in animation. When I first started out, I met some old-time animators who believed if you could do something in live action, there was no reason to do it in animation. I disagree with it completely. Something doesn't need to be in one medium or another. It's about what your vision for the story best dictates. You have to envision the project in your mind, and it's either live action or animation. When I was doing Iron Giant, people kept saying, "You stage things like a live action movie," and then when I got into live action, they'd go, "You stage things like an animated movie." But it's just storytelling. It's the same thing. It's shots, music, color. That, my fellow critics, was a section of an interview from Brad Bird with IGN talking about his new upcoming film, Ray Gunn, that releases on December 18th, 2026. In my last video, I discussed how much I love Brad Bird, why he is my favorite director. And this quote from him right here that I just read is one of those main examples, is why I love Brad Bird. He doesn't see animation as just for kids or just a medium or a genre. He sees it as an opportunity for storytelling. Could The Incredibles have been in live action? Why, sure, it could have been in live action. Absolutely. But the story didn't call for live action. The story called for animation. Could Tomorrowland have been in animation? Yes, it absolutely could have as well. But the story in that film didn't call for animation, called for live action. And that is why I love Brad Bird. But today, we're not going to talk about just Brad Bird like in my previous video. Today, I'm starting a series called The Road to Ray Gunn. So starting this month, I will be reviewing The Iron Giant. Next month in August, I will be reviewing The Incredibles. Then in September, Ratatouille. Then in October, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. November is Tomorrowland. And Incredibles 2 in December. Just in time for Ray Gunn. Just in time to review that movie when it comes out. Then I will do a ranking of all the movies. So yes, you're getting at least one video per month for the next 5 months, roughly. But in December, you're getting 3. I will try to do other videos in that time between those videos, but for now, this is what I have decided to do, and I cannot wait. So what's going on, my fellow critics? CriticA here, and I am so excited to start this series, The Road to Ray Gunn. Let's talk about The Iron Giant. Storytelling over the medium. In that quote from Brad Bird that I just read, something really stuck out to me. He said that when he was setting up The Iron Giant, he set it up as if it were going to be in live action. To me, when he says that people were confused, like, why are you making an animated movie if you're setting up the story as if it were live action? Just do live action. You'll get more butts and seats. Animation's for kids anyway. Okay, maybe they don't think about that part, but I have to ask, will it get more butts and seats? Because that's what a lot of people think. Just make it in live action. It's so easy. Well, first off, making a movie, not easy at all. I know this because when I was getting certified for Premiere Pro in my class, I learned a lot about filmmaking and how really hard it is. It was way harder than I thought. And so having to edit, so many different projects and things like that just really gave me a perspective about all different kinds of filmmaking, commercials, short films. But I'm not here to talk about me. I'm here to talk about just the filmmaking industry in general. And the Iron Giant, of course. So why do I agree with Brad, but disagree with the people who say just make it in live action if you're setting it up live action, or vice versa? To tell you the truth, it's not just because he's my favorite director. It's just because he's right. Something I've been thinking about lately is on the film website slash app Letterboxd. Lately, I've noticed that I've been going through films that I see a lot of the people I follow on Letterboxd watch. And I see a lot of smaller films from like really small directors who might like have a couple films, maybe a couple short films before they were able to get a small director role. And maybe they have like one movie, maybe they have 10, maybe they've been making movies for years, but it's kind of the smaller stuff that you'd find on like Amazon Prime just scrolling or Netflix scrolling. And my conclusion on each of their filmographies comes to the same one each and every time. All of these people should have an animated movie. Now, am I forcing people to say you should have an animated movie on your filmography? No, of course not. I'm not, if people are more interested in live action and just don't want to do an animated movie, that's fine. I'm not gonna, say you need to. What I am saying though, if all you know is live action, you will never be able to fully appreciate the film industry, filmmaking, artistry, voice talent. Sure, you might have voice actors in your film, or you might have storyboards with art and drawings, and of course, you're going to appreciate those things. But when it comes to animation, CGI, and even if you just go back and watch some old documentaries about like the Fleischers and how they innovated with the rotoscope, with like Popeye, Superman, Betty Boop, or, Disney, how they did their backgrounds and how they innovated in animation. I mean, Snow White was the first feature-length animated film. Wow, this is an actual full-length movie that's animated? That's so cool. I'm not saying you need to prefer animation over live action. If you genuinely prefer live action over animation, great. I don't want to take that away from you. But to get back to my point, you don't need an IP. You don't need such an enormous budget. I mean, you might consider it, it's animation. Animation takes time and takes work. But I end up looking at a lot of these filmographies from smaller filmmakers and just thinking these just kind of look the same. I'm not saying that as a bad thing. It's just there was so much more potential for these people to do. They could unlock a talent they didn't really know. And if they do one animated film and they don't like it, fair enough. They don't have to do another animated film ever again. Just do live action. For you smaller directors watching this video, do it because it'll give you a full scope of filmmaking. It'll help your perspective. It'll allow you to see maybe there's another movie you're writing. Like, let's say you're directing an animated movie and are also writing a live action movie, but there's one part of the movie that you're writing that you're just like, I can't get this right camera angle. I don't know what the dialogue should be, or how should I juxtapose or show a different, like show and not tell, or tell and not show. Animated movies can help you with that. Maybe not always, but they can. Getting another perspective is good. So what does this all have to do with the Iron Giant? Well, as he said in that quote, when I was doing Iron Giant, people kept saying, you stage things like a live action movie. End quote. He didn't stage it as if it were animation. He staged it as if it was live action. But that was to help him get another perspective on the film. So that in and of itself, you watch this movie and you wonder why the characters feel so real, why the characters have these emotions and these real thoughts compared to a lot of other animated movies, both before and after The Iron Giant released in 1999. You wonder that. And then you read this and you realize because this was staged as if it was live action. which is also why The Incredibles works so well. It's a superhero movie with a spy aesthetic. You see that working in live action. So staging it as live action suddenly has the perfect way to do it in animation. You suddenly get an understanding of, oh, okay, yes, I like that. That works in animation, and I could see it working in live action. That's why I personally think that The Incredibles could work as a live action movie. Do I want it as one? No. But I do understand why it could work. Is because I mean it was staged like one. It was planned out that way, but done in animation. And again, going back to the Iron Giant, it's a film that is meant to feel real. That is meant to show this can be done in live action, but the way the story is told, it doesn't need to be. It can. See, there's a difference. There's can and need. Moana does not need to be made in live action, but can it? Yes. It did get made in live action, but it didn't need to. If you're someone who's wanting to do something new with filmmaking, if you're wanting to do something different, watch this film. Watch The Iron Giant. Why? Because it's a perfect showcase of a literally directorial debut. This is Brad Bird's directorial debut. This is his first film after working on a couple of the first seasons of The Simpsons. This is his first film as director. And the fact that it's this iconic film that didn't do well when it was initially released back in 1999 just goes to show how iconic it is, how timeless it is, how beautiful it is. And just like The Incredibles 2, which was released 5 years later, it just goes to show not only does Brad know what he's doing, he has a way of viewing things that so many people overlook because they see animation as a genre for kids and doing a bunch of histrionics and dancing and all these different things when in reality it's just storytelling. A western is a genre, a horror is a genre, not animation. And the Iron Giant has so many moments like just of realism, like when Hogarth is teaching him about death and that someday he'll die, but he has a soul, and souls, they don't die. They just go somewhere else. I could see that in live action, but man, am I glad it's in animation because that is so heartfelt. That makes me feel like the characters are real, even though I know they're only drawings and some CG elements. They just feel real, it's I don't know what else to say, but like this movie, it just rocks in emotional storytelling, and it rocks at storytelling in general, and it rocks. It does such a good job at showing why animation is competent. So to wrap up this part, small creators, small directors, if you haven't feel a need that you're missing something, try making something in animation. It doesn't have to be big like Spider-Verse or Toy Story, but just make it. Some films that I will recommend, obviously The Iron Giant, what we're talking about here, but I'm also going to recommend Klaus from 2019, which is one of the best Christmas movies I've ever seen. I'm also going to recommend a French film called Chicken for Linda because it is a film that has stunning animation and it's just a simple, silly movie that is also a little bit slice of life, but also the storytelling is just so good in the film. The relationships just feel real. The way that the film is, it's just, oh, gorgeous. So those three films, yes, their animation is beautiful, but the storytelling is real. The storytelling is authentic. Like you can see Klaus in live action, but so glad that it's in animation. Chicken for Linda too. That could also be in live action, but the way it's animated beautifully. I know that was a lot, but I'm going to talk about the actual movie now. Let's get into that, shall we? It's all about choice. To me, The Iron Giant is a Superman movie. I get why people don't, because it doesn't have Superman in the name. Superman's not the main character. It's not a DC movie. How can it be a Superman movie? To me, it's not because Superman is in the movie, nor is it because he's referenced and used as inspiration, but it's because of the messages and the themes in this film that make it a Superman movie to me. What's interesting about Brad Bird is that even though he's directed two superhero movies, The Incredibles and Incredibles 2, technically, if you want to include The Iron Giant, then that's three superhero movies. I understand if you don't, so technically, we'll just go with two. For The Incredibles, the original is one of the most acclaimed superhero movies ever made. If you do some research, you find out he's actually not really knowledgeable about comic book lore or comic book powers or superhero mythology in general. What he did for The Incredibles was he went to a comic shop to try and find some unique superpowers to give to his main leads, the family, and eventually realized that, oh, I can't find anything. I'm pretty sure every superpower has been made for every superhero. And so he decided to change his approach and he focused on the family aspect. So the dad has to be strong and the mom is flexible. The boy is young and energetic, so he runs fast. And the teenage girl is shy and, invisible and that sort of thing. And that's awesome. And don't worry, I won't just be talking about The Incredibles. I'm doing that video next month. I'll be talking about more there. This is still The Iron Giant. But I bring all this up because how The Incredibles was pitched was as a 60s spy aesthetic family drama that then became a superhero movie. And The Iron Giant was very similar in how it was pitched because it wasn't pitched like, oh, I read this really cool book called The Iron Man that is about a robot from space who's, raised by a kid or something like that. No, it is inspired by a book, but it's very different from the book. How it was pitched was, what if a gun had a soul and it didn't want to shoot? That's it. No Superman inspiration, no, none of that. He just wanted to make a movie about a gun who has a soul and it didn't want to pull the trigger and shoot. That's literally all he did. It was pitch it as that. That's what he pitched it as. And it became the film that we know today. So why then is this a Superman movie for me? As I said earlier, it's because of the themes, the messages, the way the movie is portrayed and the Iron Giant is portrayed, the way that Hogarth is portrayed, the way the environment, the characters, even the side characters are memorable and how they feel real. The Iron Giant is a movie about growing up. It's a movie about learning. It's a movie about pushing past your fears, choosing how you want to behave, choosing the decisions you want to make. Will you allow yourself to wallow in grief, hate yourself, and fall back into programming for the rest of the day? Or will you pick yourself back up and continue on your day and fight the good fight? That's what the Iron Giant's about. That's what Superman's about. It's this beautiful film of choice. Superman can choose to be evil. He can choose to overreact and to not think straight. That the only thing he calls for is action. Take injustice. Joker kills Lois Lane and blows up all of Metropolis. Last straw. Suddenly, Batman and Superman are no longer friends. Or Superman can choose to be a symbol of hope, even in a bleak world where everyone just is out to get him. There have been several examples of this, and one that I have not seen that I've heard is really good is Superman Red Sun, where he lands in Germany during World War II. From what I've understand, I still need to read this story. I've heard it's really good. But from what I understand is that even though he's raised by the World War II bad guys, he still grows up and wants to bring peace to the world and eventually realizes that, oh wait, this isn't the right way to do it. There's a better way to do it. Or it could just be raised by loving parents and taught to protect the people of this earth, even if his culture was like, nope, don't do that, you know, his Kryptonian culture. So Superman can either be Superman or Atomo. So can the Iron Giant. It's a choice. He chooses to be Atomo when he thinks his friend is dead, and he chooses to be Superman when he learns that his friend is okay. Superman is about choice. Use your powers to destroy or use them for good. That's what Superman is. And that is a beautiful thing to me. That is brilliant writing. What if a gun had a soul and it didn't want to shoot? What if an initially programmed robot had a protocol to conquer planets, but learned love and life instead? That's what the spiritual battle is, right? We're always at war with the evil of this world, and it's a choice every day. Do we fall back? Do we give up? Do we get angry? Do we go back to the protocol? Or do we do something else and we fight? That's why I think it's a Superman movie. Choice, restraint, love. The last thing I'll say in here before I close is that it's a film that I have a hard time talking about because it's a movie that's been talked about a lot. It's a movie that you need to see for yourself if you haven't. It's a movie that is just so full of ideas. You know, some people will call it a Superman movie. Other people won't call it a Superman movie. As I get better at this YouTube thing and these movie reviews, I could probably look at the Iron Giant again and make a more fleshed out review of the film. Like, I could talk more about the animation. I could talk more about specific moments. This is just my general overall review of the film. So to recap, it's a movie I love. I think it's a Superman movie. I think it is brilliant that it's in animation and, you know, could be in live action, but the fact that it was staged as if it were live action, but really went to animation, I think is so brilliant. I think is so clever. I think, you know, it's just one of the things that make Brad Bird smart and amazing, and why he is my favorite director. He has a passion for filmmaking. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, maybe share with your friends and family, and please subscribe. This has been CriticA, and I'll see y'all next time.